Hello, hello. Welcome to ProBots Season 1 of 2024. I'm joined
Woo!
here by Aban Yoshi. How's it going?
It's going very well. Excited to see some bots. How are you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I'm rocking the NHL playoff jersey starting soon. Toronto, which I'm in, is against Boston. So I'm hyped for that. But first, we have to do this stuff the ProBots
The
AI,
non-hockey.
yeah, the non-hockey stuff, the non-AI, the non-human stuff, and check this out. We've got the winners matches for each of the groups tonight, with one exception actually. So we've got actually. Let's take a look at what's first here. Our bracket, our lineup. Yeah, format first. We'll discuss the format, then we'll tell you
Yeah.
what. Then we'll tell you why it's broken.
Let's start at the
So,
beginning.
yeah. So we are starting in. We've got the group stages. We are now at the winners matches of the group stages. So everyone was in groups of four, and we are at the winners match. The winner of this will advance tonight. The loser will not be eliminated yet, but drop down into the consolation losers match. And then the winner of that will also continue on into a single elimination playoff format from there, thus syncing us up with hockey, which is important. And maybe the NBA. I think they're close to there. Yeah, the matchups then for tonight are going to be, they were supposed to be the four winners matches from all the games. However, we've got a little bit of a bug with the Micro Machine matchup, and we're not sure yet whether it's actually the bot failing or whether something is failing like in the environment. So we're not going to give a call on DQing it yet until we figure out if it's the fault of a specific bot or the fault of something else going wrong. So we're going to sub in at the end here. EPN Roach is going to be playing the loser of Zena versus Sharkbot. So we're going to see that group get completely played out, and then we'll sub in the Micro Machine match next week when we figure out what's happening, or potentially disqualification if it does turn out one of the two bots is the culprit in that. So yeah, we're going to start off with Tier T versus Zozo for tonight, and take it from there. Any thoughts or predictions for these?
So for this match, I mean, I'm hoping for Zozo just because I'm a Protoss brain.
Yeah.
But I don't know if really they're gonna have the advantage. I'm looking at their little notes just real quick to see if there's any, specific weaknesses that may come into play between the two. And so it does say Tire T is a little bit weak to early game and can struggle to fully adapt. And so it'll be interesting to see if Zozo comes out swinging.
Yeah, I'm curious if Zozo, which can do kind of like, early cheesy stuff, whether Tier's got the programmed in defenses, whether they're good enough, whatever. Tier is also known to sometimes counterpunch or counter program for specific cases and kind of snipe them. So I don't really know there. We saw in the first round of matchup Zozo going 2-1 against Kaninana. It came down to how very precisely how they responded to some early game stuff. So yeah, I think a similar thing could end up happening with Tier here.
And then we'll go into Group B real quick. Our second match before the break.
Yeah, is going to be Benbot versus Ketra. Yeah, this is a tough one. I think, so one, these are going to be long. So make sure you're sitting somewhere comfortable. If any of these games are below like 40 minutes, I'd be a little surprised. Both of them are super, super patient Terrans that build up to like later game stuff. My tendency is to still think Ketra has the edge here, but Benbot has gotten better and better each season.
Ketra was the Viking micro, right?
Yeah. Viking micro and the Mass
that
Raven
specifically
stuff
makes me kind of give it to Ketra because Benbot I assume is going to go into BCs. I feel like microed Vikings should just eat that up. But I feel like it will take like 30 minutes to get into the Sky Terran armies that they both will go into.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. We're going to get a very attrition based. It won't surprise me if they just mine out the entire map before either of them
Really
decisively
engaging.
moves. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, Ketrak's plan seems to be always to mine out the map and then figure it out from there. Pretty much. And then we've got Zena versus Sharkbot. This is probably the one that I think I'm the least certain on. Sharkbot could do some really cheesy stuff, but can also play some macro and everything. Xena is random, so it's very much up in the air on what you're going to get out of this matchup.
I'm also really excited to kind of see the matchups back to back.
Yeah,
We're kind of taking a GSL almost style of
yeah,
having a really long period of time between each match, and so you can really kind of fine tune things. But also, I feel like it takes me like almost like a game to really get back into what these bots like to do.
yeah,
And so being able to see whoever doesn't make it out of Group D immediately play into EPN Roach, I think will just be an interesting thing. And there's no specific fine tuning to the opponent, which is also
yeah.
I think kind of a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It should be kind of dramatic as well to watch potentially one lose two in a row or lose and then triumphantly make it through right after that.
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, anyone around before we jump into the games or anything, then please give a like and subscribe below. Helps with the algorithm, helps get attention, all that sort of thing.
Get your
And
boats in the chat.
yeah, exactly. And check out ProBotsAI.com to help us out.
And if you want to
Also,
get involved,
yeah,
if you're trying to
exactly.
learn how to, program your own bots and stuff, go online. We have links to our GitHub to really get you started from knowing nothing. And then if you already are started and just want to kind of learn more, we also have a lot more. We have like the monthly show, post bots, mob bot programming, and just more stuff to get involved to
Yeah,
kind of widen your arsenal of bot tactics.
exactly. Get involved. Get there. Yeah, Drekken's always not always, but like he's been on
He's a
doing
shill.
stream.
You can.
Well, he's been doing streams to like try and show his programming skills, high level. He's going to be at Amazon in a week for sure. Um, just coding the shit out of everything. But yeah, if you want to see him making microbots work, then check that out. I think so far, I think he's been doing it like each Monday, something like that. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
so
jump
very
into those.
consistent.
Yeah, he's a workaholic. That guy. So check it out. Let's take a look at the stats for these two before we get into the game. Here we got Tier T with an ELO of 1735. I always qualify the win rates. It's the win rate in the upper half of
Yeah,
the thing, the ladder, so they can look lower than you would think for
I
how
mean,
good they are.
it's like even with real people, if your win rate's really high, you're just playing against worse people. You know, like
Yeah,
that's a problem if it's too high
that's
or too low.
yeah,
You
that's
should be playing
exactly it.
around the same elo. So elo is really what we want to look at. And I feel like crash rate hasn't come super into play. I mean, everyone's got at least a below,
Yeah,
0.15 or something. So usually that doesn't come too hard into play.
yeah. Exactly. Like I've been watching the chess candidates tournament is going on here in Toronto, and it's like the top 8 players in the world, and then there's one guy that's just like losing all the time, and you're like, well, he's terrible. He's not really terrible. He's just playing these seven
Yeah.
best people.
If you only played against the ninth and worse, you'd be
Yeah.
100% win rate.
Yeah, exactly. Zozo at 1806. So they're both pretty close. Zozo a little bit of an edge, similar win rate here. And of course, as you can see from the graphic, Zozo's characteristic
I love that
probes.
graphic.
Yeah, it's great.
That's such a good action frame of like you see the
Yeah.
attacks coming out from all of them at once.
Yeah.
Super nice. A little bit higher crash rate, but again, I usually at this
Yeah.
level it's not really coming into play.
Yeah. We say that even though we have a canceled match,
Yeah,
but we don't know why
usually.
yet. So yeah. So let's jump into it now and check it out.
Zozo. Tier.
So far he's not sending all his probes at least, but we are getting a proxy pylon down already.
Yeah, almost Max Pax-esque.
Yeah.
Back in the, when Max Pax first made his kind of appearance known, it was with against Terran with this kind of proxy pylon. I think he would do the first pylon at home still.
Yeah.
But this is just a straight up flowered then.
Oh yeah.
Looks like it. The fourth one's got to be coming, right?
Did we remember we saw this, which is kind of odd, or at least I thought it was odd, like when we first saw. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It almost seems like I know the 2-gate forge is a very popular, very popular, but is a thing. 3-gate almost seems like you don't have enough money to like keep up all 3 zealot production and build any cannons, especially if you're trying to like actually wall the cannons off before the zealots get there. Oh, and first probe already getting trapped, taking a lot of damage, and there's only one probe across the map too. So if this probe goes down, the cannons are,
yeah. So that's kind of shut down. He's got it still built there, so another one is going to make his way entirely across the map. One thing you bring up a good point that is interesting to consider in these. There are certain builds that are not possible for humans to do that these bots can do because of the speed mining tactics that they use.
Okay.
So there's things that they can afford that are not possible.
I do want to say, because he queued up, or like, Zozo queued up that cannon, there were 2 zealots producing when there could have been 3.
Yeah.
Minor, but now it's looking like it's going to be a healthy 3 zealot production. But that's also because there's no chance of cannons, at least in the next, 40 seconds while this first pylon goes down again.
Yeah. This will be interesting if he puts us in range. Like the cannon could help from the low ground because the zealots will give vision. But yeah, he's pulling SCVs to repair. Is this going to work out well? If he just keeps letting like individual zealots die to the bunker and not group up and like go all together, then it's definitely not going to work.
It feels like it almost at this point doesn't matter, especially a rush like this where there's absolutely no tech investment at all. Yeah, if you don't break them immediately, especially Terran, who can, if you only have melee units, can just repair for as long as they need to.
Yeah.
I don't see this working out. Maybe if there are like a bunch of cannons out of range, because cannons do have like 1 more range than Marines in a bunker. But even then,
he's just gonna, if he keeps doing that too, it's way too close. So he's just gonna drain it. But
he's in the cancels. He's not losing all the money.
There's always a few bots that like repair properly at first, and then they fail to re-repair. So there's some chance that works, but it's not going to happen at this point.
Once the initial threat is gone or something.
Yeah, they send them back and then they never send them back. They send them back to work and then they don't reinitiate. Or what will often happen is they'll repair something, stop where they are, and new ones will try and come repair it.
Trying to pull from the mineral line, and so it almost doesn't even register those workers as available.
Yeah,
so this is just gonna get worse.
This is turned. He's shut it down pretty cold. Losing obviously the probe that was trying to get that first cannon at that pretty much shuts it down. But Tyr responding in the very appropriate way right off the bat.
The bunker instead of the barracks at the ramp really helps. The pulling of zealots is kind of interesting. Zozo is holding like 4 to 6 zealots before they run in again. But like you said, that first probe going down, especially when it's a non-tech cannon rush, there is like so much importance on timing and tempo. When you're not trying to get into Adepts or Stargate, I'm a big cannon rusher, so I love like Tempest play. Tempest play, you don't necessarily need to end the game with that first probe. But when you only have zealots and only have like the ability to make cannons, you really do need to be like on the high ground, hitting a mineral line for this to really work out.
Yeah, for sure. It is funny that he ended up taking out the depot, but it was really the tank that took the depot.
The friendly fire. Sometimes that's a nice consolation for, finish your shade in the mineral line. And you're like, well, it went down, but I injured a lot of workers with that friendly fire splash damage. Yeah, Zozo having infinite minerals, but there's just no zealots are not going to beat 5 tanks sieged up.
No, yeah, they're not even going to get into location with them. There was a really early quirk that almost worked for them. There were 2 Marines out, and they came down out of the bunker to try and kill the pylon, and one zealot got at them, and the other one was coming. But then the zealot in the back got distracted by an SCV and didn't attack the Marines. Had
Oh.
he killed like a couple Marines on the low ground, that could have been interesting because then there's only one Marine in the bunker and 4 zealots attacking. Like, how would that go? That was neat.
That
But,
move
it
out
doesn't matter.
ended up working out, but there are so many Marines on the other side.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, like we've been saying, that like the momentum of these early techless cannon rushes, momentum is everything. And so yeah, getting that first Marine, it may not like seem huge, but man, it really starts snowballing. You maybe get the second Marine, or a cannon's able to go up, which otherwise wouldn't be able to, and you can really start stacking that momentum. But this is kind of the opposite of that, where nothing really worked out,
down.
and there were no pieces that built into bigger pieces. It was just kind of
it's just a
rough from
bunch
the
of
gate.
just a bunch of Lego on the floor for you to step on.
Yeah.
Basically. Anything like that, obviously, if it doesn't work right away, then it's not going to. I do like the idea behind it of like, I'm going to put the cannon on the low ground so that if he does wall, I've got some extra DPS to go with it. Kind of works, but it kind of is also predicated on needing the zealots. It's not like they can shoot by itself. It needs the vision.
Yeah.
So the moment you've got the vision, if he's got a bunker, it shuts it down. Where that would be good is potentially if he put the barracks there, like you said, and then you're shelling on something that's not necessarily attacking you back, is potentially okay. But even then, if you don't break in like pretty quickly, then that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
The one real benefit is, again, if you had a barracks and then they sent SCVs to repair the depot, the cannon can shoot the SCVs. That's the key.
Yeah.
But that's hard to. That's assuming a lot of things went right already.
Yeah. I feel like the big thing is like, if you're going for like gas and stuff, starting low ground is totally fine.
Yeah.
Because you have the time.
Yeah.
That cannon will defend a like void ray beautifully, and you can hit the mineral line with something other than cannons. When you only have zealots, it feels like even if you get the zealots like inside the base, you're not really threatening much of the mineral line with zealots.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to really make those valuable. So I feel like if you're going to go for only minerals, you almost have to start high ground. I think you can like start chipping away, but then it's still like so many leapfrog pylons to actually be able to get somewhere where you're dealing damage to the main base and actually being able to end the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. We'll see if this works out better on a different map. Let's jump into game number 2.
Zozo. Tier.
All right, we got the same setup at the beginning, and it seems like Tier just never wants to take that that barracks on the ramp.
Yeah,
because this, is not a reactionary placing of the barracks. They just do not build the barracks on the ramp, which is really unfortunate for Zozo.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't quite work. And once again, the probe there dying very quickly. It does a weird, like different map, but it did basically the same thing. For whatever reason, it put down the pylon and then like hid in a corner where it wasn't hidden at all. It just got stuck in
a little bit.
Yeah, and then it couldn't get out. Like if you're going to do that, you kind of want to program in the probe to like move around or like go somewhere safe and then come back, especially since like the timing of the zealots coming to help line up so well with it that you should just send the probe back to where your gateways are and then like come back come back with an escort if you need to.
Yeah, or even
Yeah.
delay the first pylon a little bit longer,
Yeah.
so that you're not there alone,
Yeah.
trying to just stall until the zealots get there. Wait for the first 2 zealots to come out, and then that pylon goes down
Yeah.
easily. I still don't know if you get high ground and everything.
Yeah, probably
but
not.
the SCV pull doesn't kill that first probe
Yeah.
and delay that cannon so significantly, like it has the past 2 games.
Yeah, because now we just got the repeat here. Like, yeah, these are just gonna melt
Melee
down.
units versus repair. It's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, not gonna work out. Yeah. Oh well. Oh well. But yeah, you can see how, like, if you've got the vision and the cannon's able to shoot the SCVs, maybe that starts being a little bit annoying. But you still probably just don't break through anyway with a fully loaded bunker. But
Yeah.
that's at least more of a problem. And if it was the barracks instead of the bunker, then you've got more of a chance. But yeah, you got to get like, there's not a lot of good excuse for not getting. Maybe you don't get the cannon up, but getting your probes just killed, you got to be able to. Since it's like the only thing you're doing, you got to be
Yeah.
able to micro it better than that.
Yeah, and this is again where, like, if you're gonna start low ground, I think just like one less gate here.
Yeah.
Get a pylon at home, get some gas at home, and then the
Do
depth
something
shades
else.
do the, peaking for high ground infinitely
Yeah,
better
really
than 5
good.
zealots running into a bunker.
Yeah, for sure.
Get 2 adepts, and then you can actually get some cannons outside of bunker range, and those shades. Getting 2 free depots is a pretty big, momentum boost for this really early game, and that is something that people who are really good against cannon rushes will start the depot but not actually finish it, so that they can cancel when
Yeah.
needed but still wall you out. Getting 2 free depot kills is huge to break the Terran's kind of
Yeah.
infrastructure like that. But yeah, zealots are just not going to be able to lead it from the low ground, so I think you have to either get on that high ground as fast as possible or get into gas, because low ground zealots is just so brutal against Terran.
2 tanks. It doesn't matter, but that's once again good
This
effort.
looks better, but it just
good effort. But
it leads to
yeah.
more zealots trying to fight a bunker. The end game has not changed at all. And these tank moveouts are pretty odd. But
Yeah, I assume it's now thinking like it wants to establish the expansion, and that's kind of the precursor to it.
Mhm.
Something like that. Although it did that much later last time, it was content with these tanks behind the.
It came
The
out with
line.
like 5 tanks,
Yeah.
a much later push out. But it may have stopped this even harder, and
Yeah,
zealots at certain times weren't coming, so it seemed safe. Vikings just watching the tank go down to 5 zealots.
yeah, they're not gonna. They could. They just don't want to.
I mean, this is a lot more annoying than the last game,
Yeah.
for sure. These zealots are actually doing way more work than they have any right to.
Yeah. Had
But-
he lost one of the depots this game, then maybe they would at least run in there and be annoying, but they wouldn't get too far. I don't know if they'd even get past the bunker, but
Yeah,
even,
and
even
the
on a pure run by.
the pooling is nice, because there's
Yeah.
clearly some programming of
Yeah,
don't
go to
just
6.
streamline one at a time with zealots. So I really like that from Zozo. But yeah, my complaints have been known. As a cannon rusher, the cannon rush part of it I still don't like, but that micro, especially because that's a very non-bot thing to do.
Yeah.
The amount of zerglings we've seen just
Oh,
slowly go across.
that's interesting. The voluntary cancel there, despite the fact it wasn't being attacked at all. Now the Marine getting forward and the Zealots want to group up, but so they wouldn't
Yeah.
attack. Yeah,
So there is that kind of the pros and cons of that whatever string of code is
Yeah.
that makes them kind of group up. Not being able to take a fight against the single Marine is a little unfortunate, but I can't imagine that happens too often with this kind of
yeah.
all in.
It's kind of if that's happening, it's irrelevant.
You're already you're not in
Yeah.
a good spot if one
Yeah.
Marine's already on your entire infrastructure.
I almost feel if we could take a look at resources lost, I almost feel this is probably efficient for Zozo at the moment. Yeah. No, he's lost, like, gas has been lost, obviously, for tier side.
47
yeah.
zealots does.
Yeah,
Is a lot of money.
That's a lot of zealots, yeah.
Yeah, if there was some sort of if then or some string of logic that
Yeah.
maybe Zozo would like expand after a certain
Yeah.
point. Because I think bots can be kind of tricked into really hunkering down, and especially after early harass, kind of just being like, okay, I'm gonna get my natural setup, and that's like the one thing I want to do. Zozo has the money to go like,
Yeah.
triple expand at home, maybe even take late guesses and just go, probes, zealots, Nexi,
Yeah.
cannons.
Something to continue this on, like the one Reaper here, which I like is being helped by the medevac. Will
Just in
eventually
case.
take everything out, but yeah, taking at the main buildings. But yeah, there's some world where you could just kind of trap tier in the main, and like if you kept sending down individual tanks that died, you could eventually be like main base is main base, and like they run out of resources, but obviously the building speed is too fast.
I almost don't even mind. I've seen Print F do a couple cannon rushes where he builds that gateway forge in the opponent's natural.
Yeah.
And so you kind of already have, even if they clean it up, they have to kill like 700 HP worth of building to finally land their orbital. And so I think that could maybe be a little bit more annoying. You have like some of a wall that the cannons, if you are just trying to stop the ramp, basically just hold that ramp.
Yeah.
You can put them outside of bunker range, but a
It
nice
might
range
even
around it.
help in this case, like since he's also not super concerned about it being scouted or not, you could also just use that first pylon then as your cannon point.
The first cannon,
like that's kind of the like you could could build one defensively and then kind of leap forward a little bit if you want
and
it.
the zealots come out right on top of it.
Quicker, yeah.
But enough of that match.
Okay. Anyway,
we're in the next one.
Yeah, we're on to the next one. It is Benbot BC at 1936 with a win rate of 61.8%. And yeah, Benbot very very defensive. Benbot's one of the bots like in the earliest seasons that we had in play. For 20 minutes, you would think he was losing, and then he didn't lose. But it was losing like every fight. The map was being taken in front of him, like, but then it just survived and survived and survived and eventually won.
Well, and especially in like the bot world, people talk about when people smell like blood in the water and players' abilities to really figure out when they have the advantage. I feel like bots are always on the stark opposite of that that spectrum of they almost never know when to really kill it.
I like some of the bots that will actually tell you, like some of them in chat will kind of say their assessment of like what they think the supply is, and like I've never seen it within 50. Like it's hard to do, obviously, some early game stuff, but it often is making a very bad assessment of what it is. And so Ketra there, similar but higher elo and a similar win rate. But yeah, Ketra, I probably would bet on that to just the styles. Benbot is trying to almost like starve you out and build up to a late game, but Ketra is doing that from the beginning as well. And the way that Ravens work in particular, just like the attrition in it is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think unit comp wise, I just really like Ketra against Benbot with the sort of micro that they've been able to show with their Sky Toss army, and it's a very different Sky Terran army than Benbot, obviously.
All
both of them have
Protoss.
crazy high elos. So I think this is going to be at least a battle of the giants at the very least.
Let's hop in and see how this goes. Lean back and relax. It's going to be a while.
Benbot BC. Ketra.
All right, so Benbot's first barracks, I believe, out on the map second barracks at home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it will
aggressive
often
bunker.
do this. Yeah, exactly. This is kind of one of its standard openings, that it will not commit too strong to this, but if it can get this bunker down, get some Marines in, it will slowly reinforce it a little bit, and eventually put like a tank there, a turret there. But it's not really trying to win the game. It's just trying to slow it down so that it can tack up.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense with Benbot style. Ketra, with no scout, going with the high ground expansion, so kind of just a lucking out in the build order wars. Because high ground command center and a really fast factory could mean a fast tank, and that pretty much shuts this down unless Benbot can get like an overwhelming amount of Marines over here.
Yeah, looks like we're gonna get a cyclone out, and yeah, I still don't think he knows that that's there, but he's not too concerned about it just yet.
Yeah, I mean, what Ketra is doing is such a good response, even though he doesn't know it's there.
Yeah, even blind. Yeah.
Because Cyclone, not as strong as the tank, is shutting down all shenanigans, but definitely a thing that can really shut down these early aggressives. So now Ketra's finally going to see it while trying to take his third at the natural.
Yeah, which is interesting that he's trying to build it on site despite the fact that he's got the other one. So,
yeah, pretty greedy build.
yeah, it is. We'll jump down with the Cyclone, making pretty short work of some of these fringe Marines.
Yeah, Cyclone's really good at shutting this down.
Yeah.
Oh, and Benbot, I like that the Marines aren't derping where they never go forward, but that one was almost a little bit, it's always the two sides of the coin where it's like, do you want them to be too aggressive or too scared to fight? And that one, maybe they should have been a little bit more afraid to fight.
Yeah, but I was wondering if this was going to happen. Since he built the one in the main, it was always going to float to the third, because he intended to build another one at the natural on site.
Regardless of,
So even if that bunker had stayed, it basically wouldn't have slowed him down.
This seems like a very, very just good build order win for Ketra, and it looks like this is going to swing momentum very heavily into his favor now that he's going to have 3 bases online pretty soon here.
Yeah, Benbot with a couple up, and he'll now defensively at home probably do this double bunker Widow Mine tank thing that it does here, which can work reasonably well.
Yeah, it kills roaches.
Yeah,
it destroys a lot of Zerglings, Zerg players trying to rush it down. Ketra may not be leaving his side of the map though for a while.
No, probably not. Probably not. Ketra very, very patient. Doesn't really attack till there's a lot built up.
And when they do, it'll be like ravens, sneaking in the main through dead airspace and then sneaking out through dead airspace.
Yeah, we're getting the first raven production gathering up. We got a couple there, 2 more on the way.
So just scouting Hellion. Okay. And checks on everything. And yeah, raven production coming along very hard.
Indeed, as a dog enters the chat. Yeah, both of them in supply overall pretty even in both army and workers at this point. Ketra obviously would have built at the natural a little bit sooner, delayed by the placement of the bunker, but that is up now. And Benbot is building a third in the main, and we'll float that down. Ketra is moving out, but just with a relatively small force, but is going to get a sense of what's going on. There's pretty good defenses here for a Benbot, so I just don't think he's going to be able to get much done.
Ravens are what you want against Widow Mines.
Yeah.
Very nice that Ketra immediately sees that and just knows that two Ravens and a Cyclone is not going to be too threatening right now with this amount of Marines. A lot of different upgrades coming out of Benbot right now. So we have Combat Shield and Blue Flame Hellions. Nothing with no BC tech right now. Kind of going just some different comps.
Cyclone here really giving trouble to a lot of these Marines. and they may just kind of let themselves get chased to death.
And the only thing that is afraid of the Cyclone is the Viking, which is just so unfortunate that the
Yeah.
the Marines aren't afraid, and the Viking, which could be dealing some damage to those Ravens, cannot get any closer.
Yeah, so he's really doing a good job of picking this apart. That was a whole lot of Marines that have completely disintegrated here, 29 in total.
And combat shields
Yeah.
are going to finish like now. So a little unfortunate, counter timing, anti timing. And yeah, all these Marines are such a snowball unit as well.
Yeah,
That clearing all of these Marines out, I mean, the next 30 Marines are also not going to be that scary. You know, you really need a good ball to really be able to jump onto the enemy. And so I feel like this is going to be a pretty strong stranglehold that Ketra has on Benbot if he just keeps up whittling down these Marine numbers.
yeah. A tank there moved into this other position that is helping a lot. The first two are like a bit too far back, but this one kind of in the middle of everything is cutting down the ability to really come in.
Yeah, hopefully scaring those Cyclones off, trying to stop the poking and prodding that Ketrak is continually doing. Ketrak going up to 4th base, and so should keep at least a decent economic lead, although the mineral income seems surprisingly close for a triple CC kind of opening.
Yeah, they're still quite even overall. Benbot even with a bigger army, although I argue it's a slightly less effective one for sure. And some of it may be lost as it wanders out into the open here.
Yeah, taking on this tank is going to be very rough for these Marines. And again, it's the momentum of Marines is just so huge, where you really need a ball. And Benbot has lost now 43 Marines in basically 2 big chunks. It's been about like 20 Marines at a time. And yeah, I just don't think Benbot's really going to get to the Marine count that he needs. Fusion Core is about to finish, so maybe once some BCs come out, it'll be a little bit better, but Ketrak's looking very Python-y right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a bit. It's got a, nice nice job of all those. The tank here is kind of the fallback point. And the planetary itself certainly helps out.
Yeah, the Ravens casted the auto turret so far back that I feel like if this was near that tank and the actual planetary fortress, at least the tank is gone. All these Marines are gone. As it was, that ramp kind of messed with, the buildable squares. There weren't too many that close to the planetary fortress unless you really jump on it. And so a lot of Raven energy going down for, not too much damage, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem given all the other damage Ketrak has been able to kind of just steal over time from Benbot.
Yeah, agreed here. I mean, their APMs are quite similar in the 12,000 range.
Mine's close.
Yeah, it's definitely in that ballpark. Spike it apart there. Now it looks like I don't know if he knows about the upper base yet, because he may get more headway going there instead of coming up this like double ramp section.
The low ground, yeah.
But the tank on the high ground doing a pretty good job. Like that one tank is the MVP of like holding this entire thing off at the moment.
From Benbot, yeah.
If it wasn't there, then this is much worse.
That's Ketrak's.
At first I thought that was Benbot. Then I'm like, no, Ketrak does this. It's taking everything.
I thought it was confident as Benbot building it. It's way more impressive as Ketrak building it. But looking at the minimap, Ketrak's already taken basically all the other, bases on his side of the map. So why not take Benbot's 5th location maybe?
Indeed. The BC is on its way, as is Yamato Cannon. I've always thought there's definitely a good opportunity whenever the first ones start to come out. There's such a stable thing to kind of base your army around, and I want to see how it reacts to the Ravens. If the Ravens are scared of it, if it gets like trapped with a bunch of turrets under it or anything like that.
I also feel like the first time that the BC is actually in a mineral line of Ketrak, it'll be very important to see how how much army they pull back or how they kind of deal with
Yeah.
that. Because I feel like, you know, some players and some bots, they just F2 that army back as soon as anything's going on. I guess this is a good
Yeah,
indication
it's a
right
good.
now.
There, it was almost just waiting for the planetary, which is very often Ketrak's defense for things like that is just, well, it's just planetary. But BC, of course, doesn't care that you've got a planetary.
And sometimes doesn't care that you have some missile turrets too.
Yeah,
You know, if
exactly.
you only have one
Yeah.
or two,
Yeah.
you're gonna need to bring, you know, more back. So we'll see as this kind of gets a little bit more developed.
Yeah.
We have like 2 BCs on the field right now.
Doesn't
Too crazy,
seem-
but coming two at a
yeah.
time.
Yeah, wasn't too concerned about the turrets, like just kind of wandering into them. But Benbot does a really good job of like keeping the BCs alive, as you saw in both of those cases. And one thing Ketrak doesn't really have is a way to quick kill something. Like
Yeah.
at Protoss, you can like blink a bunch of stalkers onto something and like just shoot it down before it can get away. Terran doesn't really have that same sort of thing.
Yeah, until you have just crazy Viking
Yeah.
numbers, there's not really a one-shot kill.
Yeah, like
Type
the
of move.
turrets aren't going to do it.
If Ketrak kind of goes more into heavy Viking rather than heavy Raven, which they're not, they're still producing 5 Ravens at a time.
Yeah.
But I could see the Vikings doing a lot of damage, especially because it seemed like Benbot's BCs, they do kind of the bad micro away from the Vikings, where it doesn't seem like, other than Yamato cannon, they don't really jump on top of them ever.
Yeah.
They kind of try to, come in and out of range, and Viking range is just going to outrange
beat them.
BCs pretty
Yeah.
easily.
Here
So,
we're
yeah, now we
getting
got the
again
dance.
these kind of the turrets coming down, but just kind of expiring without doing a lot. But still, he's got so many Ravens. He's okay on energy, and I think that's going to build up more than it's going to get depleted over time.
Yeah, although I am surprised at how low he does
Yeah,
keep
some of them
the
are.
reserves. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I would think you almost want it to max out, and then you don't
Yeah.
ever want it to be fully maxed, but you don't really want it to ever hit 0. I would think, and it seems like once they do start triggering the auto turrets, they just lay down as many as they can, which I don't think it's going to come into play, but I don't like that. It seems kind of risky, especially with lower Raven numbers.
Yeah, one question is how much is he averse to the? That's a lot of Vikings.
They're the Vikings.
Yeah. How averse is he to the turrets? Because it almost feels right now he's putting down the turrets and it's holding the BCs back, but it's only 1 or 2 turrets. They could be pushing in a little more aggressively than they are.
Yeah, especially now that the Vikings have come. I like it as kind of a Viking defense, but I just don't know if you need 30 turrets. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
once you throw them down, there needs to be some sort of assessment, because it seems like blowing all of the Raven energy anytime they commit to one of those big turret bunkers.
Yeah, drops. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like now you're kind of in limbo for the next little while you get the turrets up, because the Vikings aren't going to go on their own, and you don't really have like normal attacking units. A lot of your units are just the spellcasters, so the timing of the spells need to be pretty well thought out.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting this cycle now. The BCs popping in, shooting the Yamato, and then retreating. And so far, they're not getting like one shot it down, but it's gonna end up at that point.
Yeah, I feel like these Marines honestly are doing God's work,
Yeah,
and are really stopping Ketrak's Vikings from doing that perfect.
really committing. Yeah,
Yeah, attack move, because
Yeah.
we saw them hunt down those. I think it was Tempest maybe.
yeah,
But I mean, just like absolutely destroyed them. I think because there's nothing to contest with the Marines other than those turrets, the Vikings are finding a really hard time deciding to jump on that those
Yeah.
BCs.
yeah. And Ketrak's got everything, including this glitched corner of the map. He's also getting it like the damage done, so he's not losing the BCs, but he's like getting in Yamatoing one Viking, losing 80% of the health of the BC, and sending it home. And so yeah, you can repair it; it didn't die, but it still costs resources.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's not, because Ketrak has like 7 more bases, but if they were on even mining, it'd be hard to tell exactly who is really benefiting from these
Yeah.
Yamato, lose a Viking, take a lot of damage on the BC.
Yeah.
I do like, the idea of eventually you'll have 10, 15 BCs, and
Yeah.
then that's really scary, and that I think is where the real benefit from this kind of poking comes. This is a great lay
that's a
of
good
auto
decision.
turrets.
Yeah.
When it's actually on a planetary fortress or something that will take 5,000 damage or something, like when it'll actually have all the damage taken, I think that's great. A couple of these huge auto turret drops, it seems like just fairly wasteful of 15 auto turrets, which is just a lot of energy.
Yeah, but you're right. That was a good one. Although he's gotten a lot of the Vikings trapped behind here, and I think he just lost quite a few as they were like awkwardly trying to find the place to be.
Yeah, the scales are kind of tipping in the BC's favor, and as far as at least the BC Viking fight. One BC going down, 16 Vikings.
Yeah.
So the number is getting better. The Ravens still don't really have an answer, but also the Marines don't really have an answer.
Yeah.
From either side.
Yeah, and the Marines are kind of the cheaper thing, like Benbot, because it's going to be the gas that restricts like the BC side. He's got a lot of extra minerals that he can put into the Marines, but eventually, given that you're on so many fewer bases, you eventually have to expand beyond this to keep that income up.
Yeah, once we get to that 1 hour mark, it's going to become a lot harder for Benbot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ketra definitely playing the slow, smart game of, I will just suck up all the resources. I don't even have to use them, but the fact that you can't use them will be enough eventually. But right now, it's scary when and this is kind of what I was talking about with the Raven energy, when all the Ravens are this low of energy, these BCs do just wreck now this amount of Vikings.
Yeah.
And even the Marines
if they could get grouped up, because they're each coming kind of trailing back one at a time. If you could get these in a group, particularly if they all had to sync up on their Yamato cannons and just volley, then that can be quite disastrous.
Even now, the numbers are starting to get way worse, where now they're Yamatoing and they even get to stay a little bit longer.
Yeah.
They're not immediately getting kicked back to the base to get healed up. Looks like another wave of auto turrets coming down.
This is the type of thing, though, I was saying pre-game of like, while it looks relatively stable, like it certainly looks like Benbot is losing. Like he's getting strangled out.
Yeah.
Ketra
the
has
base
everything, whatever.
Numbers, yeah.
But it's often this position that Benbot just wins later.
It's often darkest before the light.
Yeah. I know. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but I tended to not think it each time it happens.
The number of BCs is getting scary. 8 BCs to 16 Vikings is scary. Even with 35 Ravens, if they don't have all energy, if they're not in the right position, that is scary. Oh, is that a steal? Is that Ketra stealing? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That is helpful. That is definitely...
Benbot was already going to be feeling the late game with the amount of minerals that they've been allowed to mine. I love that play from Ketra.
Yeah, he's definitely got to start getting out on the map and clearing out other positions. Because, he can't continue. If you could see, like, the income now, he's got about 1/3 the income in terms of mineral count that Ketra does, although Ketra is a little inflated by the fact that he just dropped 20 mules. But still, it's higher.
Such a good drop. It reminds me, there was one time I was observing for it was Maru versus Dark, and it was like a 45-minute game. Super late game, all the minerals being mined, and Maru tried to steal some minerals from Dark with a mule drop, and Dark neural parasited the mule and made it return the minerals back to his base. Like, that can't happen often. That kind of interaction, but I love to see it from Ketra, the aggressive mules to grab the minerals. I wouldn't even mind some repairing mules, honestly, for some of these Vikings.
Yeah, that definitely actually would be helpful. And speaking of repairing, we're now at that point where Benbot is unfortunately so low on mineral count that he's not going to be able to repair the BCs as they go back.
Yeah, it feels like when you have like 7 carriers, but you actually run out of minerals, so they can't make their interceptors anymore, and you're like, man, they feel free until it's not free. Repairs feel like, wow, this is like so cheap. How do you just get away with this, but it does actually cost resources, and you can run out of resources.
Yeah, quite true. And it's the type of thing that sneaks it. Like interceptors are that type of thing of like you're trying to save up to do something, but it's sneakily automatically taking them from you.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, repair is the same, that it's just draining it. He may want to be doing other things, but it's draining it as he's doing it. And yeah, this planetary probably going to fall this time just because there's no one there to repair.
And there's
but
no
he
money.
also can't afford it. Yeah, there come SCVs attempting to save it, but are they going to have the resources to do it? For now, yes.
Just barely right now.
Very barely.
Trying to mule to make sure the income stays up to repair. But the BCs are also finally getting taken down even before they get their Yamatos off. So I don't know if it was they were coming back from the base not healed up enough, or too frequently where they didn't have their jump.
Yeah,
but now they're getting picked up pretty consistently now.
Yeah, 2 volleys is enough to do it in the time it takes to jump away. And yeah, if you look back at Benbot's main, I bet there's a bunch of damaged BCs just waiting. And is it going to fall this time? It's going to be more on the timer of the turrets, but yeah, I think it will.
It's got to be, right? It's on
There's
fire.
An SCV trying to help.
There we go.
Yeah. Didn't quite make it. So yeah, that's the Bastion. That's really the only mining base.
I
There's
can't
a couple
imagine.
stray.
Yeah, the third and fourth have much left now. Although they didn't get mule dropped,
Yeah.
so they at least have that going for them.
True. Yeah, that one's got what, 2, but there's nobody even really there. And yeah, looks like this is the cleanup now.
Sub 30 minutes. Yeah, we're about to say the time.
yeah. Like not too bad. It could have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, for a game that ends with like one bot taking over almost every single base, 25 ain't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see when it actually ends, but this is a fairly good cleanup for not too late.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, and I think throughout that there wasn't really the only time that I think there was ever any doubt at all was kind of there. It felt like there was a Viking reset in the middle, but even then it wasn't like a full like wipe them. It was like the numbers started to get reduced a little, but then he just came back super strong. And
yeah, once it was a 1-to-2 kind of ratio of BCs to Vikings, I really thought Benbot would maybe have some, recourse. But yeah, it's I don't know what exactly triggered the BCs to finally start getting taken out, because I feel like it was even before the resources became a problem of like repairing them.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you drop like 1 or 2 BCs, it immediately feels so much worse. Like all this like little momentum that he's been slowly getting from the Yamatos and the repairs immediately goes down the drain, and it feels really scary again.
Yeah.
Unfortunate that I feel like the BCs never fought guerrilla warfare style.
Yeah.
It was pretty much always defensive in Benbot's space. If there's like one BC in every mineral line, because Ketra he plays greedy.
yeah, for sure. And that's often what Benbot's initial plan is. Like its initial like claim to fame was it rushed to a BC as quick as possible and then teleported it into your mineral line. Yeah. Like the first one out immediately went over, and that often killed people, but people got wise to that. And so it started playing a later game and whatever, but it still had the offensive teleport capabilities, which it would do, but it just never got into a comfortable position to do that in this case.
Yeah, it felt like that was, partially because of Ketrock's kind of stranglehold and just always being right outside of that third base, which I was surprised Ketrock was that aggressive as quickly as they were, because it was like 2 Ravens and a Cyclone was the first move out on the map, which seems way early
for
and then it was like 1 tank, and it was just like a very slow, gradual kind of hunkering down to stay right outside of that third base, fourth base zone.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's somewhat of a once you bunker rushed me, now I'm on the warpath. Versus if you didn't do that, maybe I would have been more chill.
We could have no rushed 15 men.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see in game number 2 here. Does Benbot do the bunker thing this time or just sit back?
Benbot BC. Ketra.
All right, that first barracks is done and on the map. It will not be another barracks at home, so maybe a slightly less committed. I mean, the other one wasn't too committed either, honestly.
Yeah, it's not usually.
But
It's
faster
usually like
tech,
pretty mild.
so a little different. And yeah, a lot of these bots not really interested in playing near the ramp.
No.
That they're not
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah, in base again. Probably good for Ketra.
Yeah, it does seem like the almost like quote unquote default builds of these two bots just give Kedrock the edge within like the first like 3 minutes. Oh, delaying a depot could be pretty annoying.
Tiny bit interesting. Yeah, first he does poke with, I guess, the first Marine there. The others are chilling because he kind of got, I don't know if I'd call it unlucky, but he like ran Marines into a Cyclone the first time.
Yeah, the Cyclone really took a lot of the sails out of the push. So yeah, Cyclone will be coming out again, so it's not gonna, this isn't gonna do any crazy damage. And even the supply depot being, delayed, unfortunately, Ketrock was already well ahead, and so was not close to a supply block, so it won't really come into play. Sometimes that, especially with Zerg, like the first Overlord can really screw up a lot of the timings, and you have the money for stuff, but you don't have the supply. Not really going to be the case. And yep, another Ketrock's going to build the natural at location and just float that inner base to the third. And this bunker's going to get eaten up by the Cyclone.
Yeah, the fact that he this time sent the army down with it means that the natural isn't even going to get canceled. The first time it got delayed at least a little. Now it's just going to straight go down. Well, he might take him out, but it won't be long.
Slightly delayed, but not canceled.
Yeah.
So still, feels much better for Ketrock this game. SCV's getting taken to the third. I don't know what's hitting the third right now. Probably just another single Marine. Okay, first Hellion.
Yeah, that could be helpful. You could take out some transferring workers. Cyclone does swing down to try and help.
That should be the end of it. But yeah, I mean, it grabbed another worker trying to build a refinery. So very minor slowdowns. Interference matrix coming out from Benbot. I don't know if they got that upgrade at all last game. I know we didn't see it at all.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
I don't think I saw it even being upgraded. So it'll be interesting to see if Benbot can use that effectively.
Yeah, I almost don't know where it fits in. Because like, what would you use? It's usually like you want to freeze a tank or something, which there are tanks, but that didn't become part of Ketrock's later game. It was just there was a couple in the beginning.
If maybe the Viking count's never going to be small enough where you'd be able to interference matrix all of them, but I feel like the interference matrix on a Viking would help with the I'm afraid micro of the BCs, where they don't want to get close.
Maybe,
but yeah, unless the BCs are actually going to jump onto interference matrixing, a Raven's not going to do anything because they just don't cast any. They just will save that energy. So I can really only see it on Vikings, and I guess on that Cyclone right there.
Yeah, we just saw it there, but well, I guess it had just produced a good result. The Cyclone didn't know what to do, and it just kind of walked in to death.
That first Cyclone, game one, did probably have like 45 Marine kills. The Cyclones have been doing some work. Ketrock's vision not quite going to be there, but those tanks, if they got vision, were actually really scary for Benbot.
Yeah, they're in a good spot. The tank on the high ground is just a tiny, tiny bit too far back to shell them itself. With vision now, we'll start to attack here. And the bunker will fall pretty quickly.
This is an even kind of closer stranglehold than last game. Ketrock had a kind of set up camp outside of Benbot's like third, fourth area. This time, almost being able to get on the high ground, still on that low ground, which I kind of like you said last game. I wish that they were approaching from the left side or
Yeah.
the north side rather than the east, and just not forcing themselves to play on low ground and needing air support just for their tanks to actually be able to see.
Vikings unfortunately scared of that turret, so they could just finish off the other Raven. One pickup on one of those. He's dropping his own turrets on the tanks when he's got the chance, which is why they are damaged.
Yeah, the very beginning felt a little bit better for Ketra, but
Yeah,
these two
but now
Vikings,
it's worse. Yeah,
yeah, taking out like the early mech units to really stop the snowballing that Ketra had last game could be huge. It could at least lead to a non Ketra infested map.
yeah,
You know, if Benbot's actually able to kind of expand at a semi-normal rate and not be locked back in. Now I think they have the tank count advantage, and I assume the Viking count advantage as well.
yeah. And he's much quicker going into the BC this time. So well, that could help again if you've got a couple of those out already when they try and push in. And we've got like 3 bases to 3, which is pretty healthy.
Yeah, this is looking way better for Benbot.
Yeah.
As our glorious absorber Magnus just showed us. Ketra down on the Vikings, just got his not the first Raven, but the only Raven that he has on the map right now. So the Raven count, Viking count, and tank count all in Benbot's favor for now. Obviously, Ketra's going to go more into more Ravens, and Benbot's probably going to be kind of, you know, going into BCs rather than Ravens on any of the tech labs. But this does seem like a very smooth start for Benbot.
Yeah, definitely better. There's our BC coming out to potentially shut down like the tank
Yeah,
out of
and
this.
now that Ketrak's not on this side, it may even open up that those BCs to be a little more aggressive than they were last game. They're pretty much always defensive. This time, hopefully, you can get some BCs and some mineral lines, either teleporting in or running in and then teleporting back. That always, you know, is the safer kind of method. And yeah, anything that the Yamato hits is just going to be so nice.
Yeah, just nice free damage. And yeah, the fact that he's getting in and not like taking damage to do it is important. Still continue with the tanks and cyclones here. I expect maybe once they just all get cleaned up, Ketra will switch out of them because he switched out, I felt, also quicker the first time.
Yeah, like tank production did not go on
Yeah.
for this long. And I mean, they never had to build another cyclone, but I feel like it was like 2 or 3 cyclones, and that was it for the entire game.
Yeah.
And they didn't really get taken out, so that definitely could be
Yeah.
a big part of it. But yeah, Ketrok's still going very greedy on their side of the map. Even though this, you know, the place he's trying to kind of fortify has been taken back over multiple times, it's still enough of a distraction that Benbot has not tried to venture on the other side of the map, leaving Ketrok to go ahead and take, triple expand right now. 3 at one time. So not feeling too much pressure.
Yeah. Overall here, relatively even, like gas in exchange for minerals, generally good. The SCV count is kind of unnecessary, that he's sending SCVs down to die when I think he could be protecting or holding those back. But yeah, that's unfortunate because he's behind on workers and doesn't really have to be.
And there's the quadruple expand.
Yeah.
Very soon we're gonna have Ketrok taking the bases that are like right outside of Benbot's range. And so we'll see if those actually are able to go down or not. Either way, it looks like if it goes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, Ketrok will have a pretty huge advantage. But Benbot might be able to get this army. He's already got a little bit of an army lead, and definitely the sophistication lead army-wise. And so I'm kind of hoping that he just sends it at a certain point. Either that or actually do some harass and then just keep the Vikings back to defend or something like that. You just don't want to stay on your side of the map for long enough for the economic advantage to really take effect.
Yeah, for sure. Here, if he can kind of like flank this Viking army and clean it up or something, then that would be great. There's a fair number there. Has to pull back some of the BCs. Second one, both getting out in the red. And now he's kind of walked into a pretty bad concave from both sides.
Yeah, the SCVs were obviously repairing the planetary fortress.
Yeah.
If they were able to get under the Vikings, I would have loved,
Yeah.
to see just a little bit of that, because it was nice that the Vikings and the Ravens were not on the same side as from Ketra.
Yeah.
Where usually, the 7
Yeah.
Ravens are escorted by like 20 Ravens that are going to throw down auto turrets if you actually try to commit. This time the Vikings were kind of by themselves, but the BC's kind of coming in not quite at the same time, kind of having to jump back at different times, and the other Vikings, like you said, kind of getting into that huge concave that ended up being both sides of Ketrok's Vikings.
Yeah, the
Recess
BC
the town a
down
little
there is a problem, and it came back in without the teleport up, as it was too soon. If he starts to lose more BCs, and this one may be in trouble. Yeah, it's trying to do the walk back, but it just got left alive. It wasn't going to make it if
Yeah.
he didn't pull back.
And the Cyclone just doing an annoying amount of damage for it being one Cyclone.
Yeah, I think that being still alive, and even the psychological effect that it has on units is really helpful.
Well, because it's so hard when you only have Viking Raven, the ground just feels very unthreatened, and that's why the Marines did there were a lot of rough parts of the Marine play from Benbot, but during that middle game, the Marines were really saving the day of keeping kind of the Ravens back and not letting auto turrets get really close on the tanks, and Marines were doing wonders because if it's all air, you don't really have anything to deal with Marines. Keeping like one tank, one Cyclone really changes the confidence, of the bots.
Yeah, the turrets, they're close enough that they're going after some of the SCVs, which is really helping. And he's continuing to stream SCVs from the other places, which almost always get picked off.
Yeah.
Which is, has been a pretty big problem throughout this whole game. I'm sure he's lost 50 SCVs at this point in kind of an unforced way.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, if you look at the minerals, both bots actually spending their minerals amazingly well. They're both under 100 minerals almost the entire time. So doing 5, worker production when you're barely making not barely making 100 minerals, but when you're constantly using them and you don't have any kind of bank, it does hurt even more to try to keep up this SCV production while not having this base mining, while trying to fight these. It's definitely compounding a lot, and I think the economic situation is going to tell the tale now that it's been about like 5 minutes since Ketrok has taken most of the map.
Yeah, I think this will fall this time. And now
Ketrok, stop it.
Yeah.
Looking like Sharkbot out there.
Yeah. So we'll start to get the same thing here. First, the repair. We're getting a diminishing worker count at this point, and we're getting that now double-digit mineral line or double-digit mineral number because they're constantly repairing everything. So that one fell pretty quick.
Can we see the upgrades just really quick? I'm just curious to see if combat shields was not researched this time. I'm just curious what sets Benbot off to kind of build more, like how they create their unit composition, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say, because I feel like game 1 it almost didn't even look like Benbot for a second. Like BCs were nowhere near rushed out. It was more like it was like a Raven, a Viking, a tank, a lot of Marines, some Widow, just a very well-rounded army. And this time I feel like they really didn't do the Marine route, and that maybe was partially because they took out those early Cyclone. The way things kind of shook out was very different. But those Marines really helped out, even though we lost 40 of them. There were still like very valuable parts of the army. So I would have loved to see if you didn't lose 40, if you actually got a Marine ball. That in conjunction with the BCs could have been really nice, but it does not look like we're going to get that.
No. Yeah, I think you're right that in a sense doing better in the early game actually led to a worse composition in the earlier switch that ended up not being beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it also led to then, I think, Ketra making more of the units it lost when it didn't do that before. And yeah, just changed the behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting to see the kind of choose your own adventure, what makes them turn to certain pages and, take these different routes, and how much it affects, what you build in the early game, how much that affects the mid game and the unit comps of like far in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just the positioning in general here, like the fact that this time that siege took place on like the top base instead of kind of in the middle of everything changes the way that everything's approaching. Now the BCs are coming through the air, whereas anything on the ground had to go around. And I think before the Marines and the BCs being with each other makes a big difference. But having that open space is totally different. And then obviously led to tons of SCVs dying in the transfer, whereas before they were coming with the army. So again, everything like that makes a big difference in how these bots behave. And once they start doing something, they won't stop. So if something's a death path, they're going to continue on the death
These
path.
darn hard-headed bots.
Yeah. So there you go. Benbot will be dropped down to the consolation match. Ketra is through. And those weren't too bad. That one was barely over 20 minutes.
For those two, for a TVT that like to play Sky Terran, take all the bases, not bad. Ketra takes the bases quick. They are quadruple expanding, and
if you just describe it as an abstract concept to people, it's a game where planetary fortresses were killed by auto turrets. You would think it would be longer than that, but
that's facts.
So we're gonna have Benbot against Ender next week, and Ketra is the advancer in Group C. And I think we are, and here's a recap again of Group A. Tyr is the one to advance, and Zozo will get the consolation against Kaninana. That's going to be interesting. They already played in the first round, and it was a 2-1. It really depended on the map and behavior of the probes and things like that. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Both matches actually are rematches. Benbot was a 2-0, so that one's a little bit more one-sided and might go in a similar fashion. But that 2-1 will be really interesting to see. What, just as we were talking, what little, things happen in the early game that trigger different things, responses, and then that builds into beautiful games.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're going to jump to a break now and come back with Sharkbot versus Zena. So stick with us. It's a great time to hit the like button. It's a great time to check out ProBotsAI.com, all kinds of stuff.
And real quick shout outs to AI Arena, where all the bots are located. You can check them out at aiarena.net, not .com, .net. But like, subscribe, cheer on your favorite bots. Let us know what you want to see. Catch you on the flip side.
We are back. We are back.
I was gonna be ready.
That's it. We'll always come back with the Chudat. So we are back, and we've got good news. So apparently, during this broadcast, they've been trying to fix the issue that we were having in the other match. So we will be having Micro Machine versus Phobos matchup coming up, but we'll do this one first. So they were able to repair. So it doesn't look like it was a fundamental issue with either bot. It was, I don't know what it was, but something, anyway, it's fixed. So it's fine.
Who needs to know who's at fault,
Yeah. So we will have Micro Machine versus Phobos following this one, which I think will be a pretty interesting matchup. Phobos, for anyone not up to speed, is the author of Eris. So it is the new bot, but same author that we've had got so used to being champion, was like, I just got to do it over with a new bot.
So like a roguelike where it's like, all right, let's up the difficulty.
Exactly.
A little different.
Yeah. So, but first we do have Zena versus Sharkbot here. Zena is our random bot, and Sharkbot is a bot that has been updated a little bit. So we've got Patch notes. Yeah, we didn't mention, but there have been updates made for this week, so people could update their bots and everything. And there have been a few patch notes from some of the bots. Micro Machine versus Phobos here. Group B is what this is from. We were gonna skip it, but we will be able to do it as the last game today. But yeah, Sharkbot left a note in its change log. Very often they just list off what they changed. Sharkbot just sent a love letter. Dear ProBots, I did not take my loss well in the last ProBots. In a fit of rage, I consumed copious amounts of cheese on the ladder. So much so that I fell into a cheese coma. I've been out for a few months. I have only just recently awakened and to be notified of the next tournament is starting. The doctors prescribed a strict regimen of macro games, but I crave cheese. Love, Sharkbot.
I'm excited to see a cheese craved Sharkbot.
Me too. So does that mean he's going to be following doctor's orders and play the macro games, or we've got a cheese addiction?
He's gonna follow his heart.
Yeah, I think you got to follow your heart. Whenever doctors tell you to stop consuming a substance, they're probably lying.
Usually, you want to keep consuming that substance.
That's it. Exactly. Like if a bunch of doctors are telling you something, go to Twitter and find out what you should really do.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way to go. So
doctors
we'll see,
hate him.
Yeah.
He just consumes cheese.
Exactly. Cheese number 7.
Especially with Protoss, cheese just you can't go wrong with cheese.
No,
you know?
Of course. Yeah. Nobody picks Protoss like if you don't want to cheese people.
Yeah,
like
you're not trying to play like Cyril, and you're not trying to play like Mark. You're trying to play like SOS.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you're trying to play like a chicken with its head cut off.
Yeah.
That somehow is working out.
That's it. Yeah, you want Haas to put pylons entirely across someone's natural or some nonsense.
Yeah, some Warp Prism Micro.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's get their stats up quickly and jump in soon. So Zena here, obviously the graphic of Zena itself.
Such a good random graphic.
Yeah, it is. It is, and good name, and an excellent warrior princess or whatever it was. Elo at 2043, pretty high. I mean, this is definitely the best random bot we've ever had. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean that Elo is crazy. For that Elo being so high and the win rate being so high, it's kind of crazy. Because Benbot and Ketra were both in like the 1900s, so Zena looking very strong, and random is just impressive. Human, AI, or anything. Random is a crazy race to choose.
Yeah, just the number of instances you have to deal with and everything like that. So yeah, definitely pretty cool there. And then Sharkbot itself at an 1847 with a 50% win rate. I mean, looking pretty jacked. That's for sure. But
that's looking like a guy that eats a lot of cheese.
Yeah, that's pure dairy. Dairy products in a shark. I bet they'd like it. Who knows? Who knows? But definitely ripped. And so cheese versus cheese. One thing that I question a little, or I'd wonder about, is if you are really cheese focused, but you're playing against a random opponent, does that hurt you?
Yeah, I feel like Protoss is very fun to cheese with, but Protoss is also my personal opinion, one of the harder races to play against random, because like that first pylon, super important. That how you set up your gateways, super important. Even like the number of gateways, it's just so matchup dependent that random can be pretty hard. I mean, you can kind of do a catch-all of like walling off your main base and not trying to go in the natural or anything, but it does feel like random hurts Protoss more than maybe other races because of how much
you just have to be very precise early. Yeah, for sure. Well, let's hop in and see what happens. I hope we get a PvP.
Zena. Sharkbot.
So Sharkbot just straight up saying, I'm gonna put cannons in your base, but Zena already building a bunch of lings.
Yeah, I think this is the 10th ling to, that's in production right now.
Yeah.
Luckily, Sharkbot did this in a way that
Yeah.
Print F kind of sometimes does, where the cannon rush really isn't in the main. It's not even in the natural. It's like to eventually push into the natural.
Yeah, I love this too. I do this a lot to myself, to be honest. Not that I even play a lot now, but if I do, I'm doing this.
I do Dos Equis.
Yeah. I do love it, and it's the type of thing that works really well against bots because it's just a magnet for bad decisions.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, are those drones going across the map?
I think they are. Yeah. I think
Any of
he
those are
just-
drones? Yeah,
like-
this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but if he gets in with
Maybe
a
it's
little too
awesome.
much force
Yeah.
here, yeah, like that pylon is basically the survival now, or he could just go for the minerals because the cannons don't protect the mineral line, and this is a lot of links.
But does Zena know that? If Sharkbot runs back to the cannons,
yeah.
they just all die. Although this is already too much damage.
Yeah, it's
So
or
two big
workers,
things
two workers, one worker.
I would say is so that first pylon needs to be one hex to the right.
Yeah.
And then you can make a pylon 3x3, 3x3 wall with like a forge and then maybe your first gateway. Sorry, the pylon at his ramp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that you can't wall that off with another building because it'll just lings are a half a unit and they'll just run right through the middle. So you really do need like a pretty tight wall on the main ramp if you're gonna stop something like this. This is an interesting way to go about it from Zena, where once the cannon was set up at their natural, well, kind of at their natural, to just send it is actually a really great idea.
Yeah.
Typically, like if I'm doing this cannon rush, I'm going to finish that wall off with a cyber core, and so like you just don't have anything in there at this kind of like time in the game. The only other thing that I had like a kind of big problem with is at the actual cannon location that Sharkbot started, the gateway just did not come down for like way too long.
Yeah.
And that first gateway, especially when I'm talking to like newer players, the gateway timing affects your cyber core timing, affects your first tech timing, affects your first unit. Everything just kind of branches off that gateway. And so not getting it down, it just obviously this was stopped for other reasons than the gateway. But even building that gateway at home, if that was a proper wall, maybe buys enough time for a cannon.
Yeah,
but
to
as
get
it
up
is-
and stop this. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a really good, decision, whether it was a real decision or not to go back. It was chasing workers back.
Yeah.
But it ended up that way, and they committed to it. And yeah, now Zena is obviously transitioning into whatever, and it's just a matter of cleaning up the cannons. But yeah, it did shut it down. It was before anything was seen. Zena was already going for 8 lings.
Yeah, that was
So like that was happening regardless.
when you see the
So,
forge building and you see
yeah.
the spawning pool building,
Yeah.
it does not feel good for the
No.
forge building.
no, generally not good.
Yeah. The positioning was kind of nice. So if they are going to do an early pool, the fact that it was not a really close, I need to get damage done right now and I need to end the game. Kind of
Yeah.
like how who was the first Protoss we watched? Oh goodness. Tier T versus Zozo.
Zozo. Yeah.
The way that Zozo was doing their
Zozo-
cannon rush.
Yeah. Zozo's
You do,
Protoss? Who was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because Tira's the Terran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Zozo does the cannon rush and it's only gateway and there's no gas and all the production's on the other side of the map, you do just have to like kill them now or you're
Yeah.
you're done.
Yeah.
The way that Sharkbot was setting this up, it really is like a leisurely cannon rush where you can go into Stargate, you can go into double Robo Immortals or try to get into Disruptor. You don't have to
Yeah.
have this like clock on you that says that you need to finish this in the next minute or
Yeah,
you're
you
done.
can be really patient. And yeah, the Immortal Shield Battery style is like just a super slow advancement on. Yeah, and usually the thing that Xena avoided there, which is usually what everyone falls prey to, is here's a bunch of pylons and a cannon. try and convince a bot to not attack that.
Yeah.
But Zena didn't. Like Zena ignored it and then went to do something else. And that's very uncommon. Almost everything sees that, freaks out, either runs from it or it suicides on it. It doesn't then
Follow
go
the
and make
workers
another
home.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's very rare. So, so there you have it. We'll see. Game number 2, we may get a different race, may get a different build. Let's see.
Zena. Sharkbot.
Indeed, we got the PvP.
You have the PvP, and somehow Sharkbot just knows it because they went for a 2 gateway opening, which like is the PvP open. You know, almost the only race you want to do a 2 gate open is in this PvP matchup. So that is just kind of funny how lucky Sharkbot is with the build order. Because the same thing with oh wait, is that Zena's?
Yeah, that's weird.
Zena blocked their own
Their own natural.
But even the positioning of that cannon rush last game really only works against Zerg. Like that kind of cannon rush, I mean, you can do it against Protoss and Terran, but Zerg are the ones that really get that natural fast, and you have something to poke at with their natural. If like a Protoss or a Terran just stays on one base, the far cannon rush is pretty rough in that kind of position. So Sharkbot's actually gotten pretty lucky with the build orders that they've chosen based on what their opponent's race is, just by complete, coincidence or luck or whatever you want to call it, fate maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this start from Sharkbot not bad, and that natural block is gonna become pretty annoying.
It's weird. I wonder if something happened there that pushed it to where it is, or
like an early scout or something that they weren't able to build where they wanted to.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, but definitely if Sharkbot gets up to 2 bases and this doesn't happen, but it may be okay. So yeah, Zena just taking the 3rd instead.
It's like when you get like engineering bay blocked, and it's like I'll just take the 3rd.
Like,
it's just great, I don't care about you.
No,
which can be annoying if Sharkbot ends up being kind of harassy and aggressive early on.
I wonder too if there's always a couple maps where your natural is an obvious concept to humans, but there's always a couple maps where technically your 3rd is closer to your main than your natural is. And I don't know if that's the case here. They're very close.
I was gonna say this is kind of an uggo map in just terms of like normalcy. This is not a standard, you're in the top left, I'm in the bottom right.
Yeah.
And then we go like up or down to go into the natural. It's just a lot weirder when it's everyone on the same side of the map and it's symmetrical but not at a cross,
Yeah, it's only
kind of gets weird.
Yeah, it's vertically or like horizontal fold instead of the diagonal that you usually get.
Exactly.
But we'll see. But yeah, I suspect that may be part of it. Although now you go build the 3rd way down there too. So yeah,
it just gets weirder.
yeah, it's odd. But yeah, Immortal coming up to join things. Nothing too cheesy or anything. So this may be part of the macro diet.
Yeah,
that was recommended by doctors.
I guess maybe try once, doing it on your own and not listening to doctors. And if you die, next life, listen to the doctors a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, it's a good strategy because then in your next life, medical science would have advanced
just a little bit further.
Yeah, so you might as well do that second.
And I do love. I'm always a big stickler of what your first units are and how early you build them. Zena went for double zealot. Sharkbot actually waited, even though they went double gateway, for the cybercore to finish. I guess they have 1 zealot. Maybe they did build that early, but I swear I thought that the 2 stalkers were their first units.
Yeah.
And just really minimizing the early zealots is such a game changer of Nexus timing, tech timing. Just everything is minerals in the early game. And so those really, really matter. Now they're warping in
yeah,
zealots.
there's another one. Yeah.
Now you're allowed to almost. Now,
Sure.
if you're gonna like do something with them eventually, I don't hate it.
Yeah, you can supplement after the fact.
But like zealot before cybercore, and if that delays your cybercore at all, ugh, painful, terrible.
He's got the one sentry too that I think he keeps like scouting with a hallucination, which pulls like half the army back to the main, which is interesting for potentially a future fight. If he's splitting things, there he almost built a Twilight, and then warped the Stalker into it and didn't.
Oh, that could be trouble where,
Yeah.
the bot kind of thinks that the Twilight is building, and
made
so
or
you never
something,
go
yeah.
into blink or anything like that.
Yeah.
Army comp wise, I have a slight preference towards Sharkbot. If these sensors are always funny because force field seems so hard to use.
Yeah.
Hallucinations seem awesome. Guardian Shield doesn't seem too micro intensive. And honestly, in PvP, probably PvP and PvT, obviously, Guardian Shield really can make a difference in these like Stalker v Stalker heavy armies. So it will be interesting. This would be so confusing as a real player, scouting that natural and being like, well, I guess they don't have expansions. Oh my god, it's like a hallucinated oracle.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they don't quite realize what the threat is, which one Phoenix can't kill anything.
Yeah, literally like
So even if it was real, what are you doing?
Yeah, that pull is, I mean, obviously it's not going to be game changing, but
It's done it a few times though.
I was going to say,
yeah.
These sensors are going to keep sending these hallucinations in, so it does seem like that is going to cause a lot of army movement problems, and then even just random worker pulls.
The prism with this, the army
Zena-
kind of wandering.
Yeah, Zena triple expanding. I was going to say, I feel like they're expanding very, very quickly. Taking a little Ketrock, some notes from Ketrock.
Yeah, wandering in. Okay, I don't like this
Oh,
engagement.
yeah, just don't fight alone.
Yeah. No, losing one immortal is pretty bad already. Gonna have to retreat.
That's such a goat unit in this matchup. Immortals, when it's just Stalker Immortal, is like, man, they are worth their weight in gold and then some.
Yeah, got the hot pick up there at least. But yeah, that wandering in and just losing one right away, it's 2v3 is already bad. 1v3 is much, much worse.
Yeah, and fighting in the only Nexus that has a shield battery, I believe.
Yeah.
I think all of these other Nexi, which I believe they've been scouted by Sharkbot. So he knows that the Nexi are in, the 12 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, the 9 o'clock. And none of those have any defenses whatsoever, nor the army sitting at it. So Sharkbot took a very unfortunate first fight into the only place with army and defenses, which now is going to basically force Sharkbot to respect Zena. I don't think Sharkbot really has a play here for the next couple minutes.
Yeah, getting a little bit of a counter fight here that they're the ones streaming in now, one by one.
And the Warp Prism micro does make a big difference.
Really good. Yeah. Cleaning this up. Half the army retreating, but then half still continuing. There's a shield battery there on overcharge.
But they're both kind of doing that too.
Yeah.
Where if Sharkbot's army did all stay on there, and the 3 immortals get to fight 1 immortal for just a few seconds, man, that's huge. First disruptor shot. All right,
almost
his
killed
own
his own
Stalker.
guy.
But could be big. Could be big later.
Okay, I think he's got to pull back now. You can't do this. They're too low.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, lost a lot there.
Disruptor could, if it had held fire a little bit until they were coming across the bridge.
Yeah.
Then that's it. But they tried to fire a little too much.
There's a little run by or something at the 3rd, I believe.
Yeah, we've got DTs coming in now too, but there is. Is that his observer?
That's the blue observer. So that should be Sharkbot. I know Zena has
earlier.
Yeah, Zena had 2 with the army. I don't know if they're still at the natural pseudo 3rd, base.
Yeah, DTs can't quite decide what they want to do though, because they could be causing a lot of trouble right now.
Anything they would be hitting, even the Nexus, I would be like kind of cool with.
Yeah.
Now they're just taking some supercharged battery off. I think that disruptor hit 1 probe.
Yeah, even if they just attack the battery itself, that would be quite helpful. Okay, disruptor, immortal by itself, no sense. The disruptor
Yeah.
sneaking in, I like that.
I kind of yeah. Although it's gonna kill like the 1 DT when it does fire.
Yeah.
And yeah, War Prism was playing with fire a little bit. I don't think really was trying to pick up anything.
Yeah.
But the early War Prism, he had 2 War Prisms with like 5 health.
Yeah.
I feel like they've only had Red Hull.
The DTs are such a disappointment. Like they've been here for like 2 minutes now.
With no observer,
Yeah.
and they're all at this base. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Nope. Especially when someone plays like Zena is, where they are crazy greedy and having 7 bases.
Yeah.
1 DT in each base does so much. Yeah, having the 7 DTs in the 1 base.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that first fight. It's like you couldn't have picked a worse spot to to make your engagement.
Okay. DT started going after the shield battery, which would have been super helpful. But
There's a little bit of a fight to the bottom right here as well.
Yeah.
I think Zena's finally trying to push into Sharkbot's. God, I don't even know what you'd call that base.
yeah, I guess
They
that's
both
the
have a
fourth,
lot.
But yeah. See, they're the disruptors here now that they're coming across the bridge. This is exactly why. There's
gorgeous.
a big shot. That one's
And
gonna whip.
Colossus.
Yeah.
Colossus are cool and all, but man, they make disruptors feel even better when you can just double up
Yeah.
on supply. Oh, disruptors are so close, and Sharkbot's getting to a number where he's going to be able to like consistently have a Nova out, which is really nice. But now Zena's a little bit more in that open area, past that really hard choke point that you're talking about of that bridge. So it's a little bit easier to dodge these Nova shots.
Yeah, you kind of really got to catch them when they're coming into you.
Pick them up! Pick them up!
Yeah.
Oh, those 3 disruptors on the north, I feel like have no shot of making
the
it out of here.
DTs get cleaned out. What's funny is there's like multiple observers with this army, which is helpful, but there's still DTs in that other base, I think.
Somewhere, I assume. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they may just be fighting like random reinforcements and just kind of running around
maybe
chasing.
They're cleaned up now. Yeah, I think they're cleaned up now. Yeah, there's two more, but they just came in. Yeah, so it looks like Zena is going to walk over at this point. This is just too much
It's a lot of immortal.
for
Yeah.
anything now. Yeah.
I mean, as Sharkbot, you can give up a decent amount of bases because of just how both of these bots have expanded. But you really need to get like all the disruptors together. 5 disruptors, with some good shots.
Yeah.
I feel like this is not totally out of question.
Yeah, it's not unkillable if like it just kind of like gets stuck in a bad situation. But the disruptors are not, it's like everything else. They want to stay at max range.
Yeah.
And then that's not good enough. You have to like take a chance to like swoop in and fire with extra room on the leash.
Yeah.
But they don't. They fire at the maximum.
And even possibly like sometimes you do 2 because you're close enough where they could jump on you.
Yeah.
So you at least have to make it worse. So if they do jump on you, one of those Novas goes off or something like that. Yeah. Right now, Zena is actually doing a really good job of dodging disruptor shots when they're not really choked up in a really small bridge or any kind of choke. But yeah, in the open ground, it seems like they're not going to be falling for any ginormous game-changing disruptor shots.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, this is just a mow down army at this point. The DTs, unfortunately, really disappointing that they were alive and just free reign for so long and nothing happened. And like you said, the base is down below, defenseless. They come in now, but there's observers with all of this, and they get cleaned up.
Yeah, DTs feel a lot like cannon rushes with with no tech, where the timing is really strong for DTs. Where like the first couple minutes that you have them out, those are the wonder word. That's like the golden hour.
Yeah.
Then they kind of fall off pretty hard, and then they kind of come back in like 10 minutes
late.
later when everyone's forgot about them. Then they're amazing again. But that middle part where, all right, now they're just going to have an observer with their army. All right, now we're going to build a couple cannons and be able to fight 1 or 2 off at a time. They just lose their value so quickly. And it's not a cheap thing to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
To get a Dark Shrine and to
quite an
spend
investment.
everything on those DTs, to get them wiped up is very unfortunate. I like the disruptors. I like that the shots actually looked fairly good. It wasn't like what you're saying, they were trying kind of keeping away and in that leash range and not getting close enough to really get an amazing shot. But the fact that they weren't attack moving and they were actually
Yeah, they were being
kind of like
controlled.
holding their ground and defensively shooting them out, I did really like that. And those bridge fights could have gone a lot more in Sharkbot's favor.
Definitely. And there was a couple opportunity where when he was using that top path to sneak in, and there's some sight blockers in that too, you could definitely like just throw Nova and like because of the sight blockers you can actually get close
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
fire it out, and he had vision there. So like that would have been a really good opportunity to be quite damaging, but yeah, didn't it just and it didn't seem like there was anything once he switched into almost like gimmick mode. He stayed in gimmick. Like he didn't build any more gateway units or immortals or
Yeah.
anything. He was only making disruptors and DTs. So
I was just say as well. It's
Yeah.
like if you have a fight going on and you have disruptors, there's a
Yeah.
good shot that either the disruptor forces the opponent not to fight. You know, it's kind of like Storm
Yeah.
against Hydras with carriers. It's like the Hydras will destroy carriers unless they have to move out of the way.
Yeah.
And even if the Storm does 0 damage, making them
It
run
was
and
worth
not
it.
attack,
Yeah.
that's amazing. But yeah, if it's only disruptors, then when the enemy army is dodging it, you're not gaining any value. And now you've lost your ability, so now you're like giving away value almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love like Blink Stalker Disruptor is obviously a very popular PvP in the pro meta.
Yeah.
But even like, yeah, Immortal Zealot, if you can pull back the Zealots, or just something to distract them, so that the disruptors aren't trying to just roll a bowling ball towards them and
Yeah, and there's
hope
no
they don't
other
move.
constraint. Yeah, exactly. So he had enough DTs at one point that he could have done the hold position.
Yeah, or like teleport through them,
Yeah.
body block.
Yeah.
I used to
Exactly.
love watching Zealot DT run bys in PvT when the DT still had like instant attacks off of the blink,
Yeah.
and you would just like blink past them, get a swipe, charge in, like
Yeah.
huge armies taken out so quickly. But that is a little bit fancier micro, I guess.
Yeah, that's hard to do. It would require like positioning understanding a lot better than
Yeah.
a lot of these bots have. But anyway, so we're gonna jump into Micro Machine, which, like we said, we got this working. So let's talk about it. Micro Machine with an ELO of still 1938. Given that it's also been on the ladder since 1938, it's pretty impressive. It was a part of the Manhattan Project that Micro Machine was developed. They don't mention it in the movie, but it's just assumed off camera.
The third.
Yeah. Win rate of 79.45, pretty good. And yeah, Micro Machine just hasn't been updated in a while, but still good, still functional.
And a great image.
Yeah.
I love Aquaman robot.
That's it. And Phobos, of course, just the planetary body, celestial dwarf, if you will. Or no, this is a moon. Sorry, the moon. It was Eris. That's the celestial dwarf. ELO of 1913. Win rate of 57. And of course, yeah, this is the not new iteration of Eris because it's a different race and everything, but same author as Eris. And yeah, it's been getting better each season, and we'll see if this is a really good gut check for Phobos. Like, how good is Phobos? Micro Machine is usually the guardian of like, are you good? Are you elite?
Is Micro Machine, are they a big 3 racks proxy? I see that it says early aggression. How early, I guess, am I?
Usually early Reaper.
Okay.
Into Hellion, into Cyclone, into Banshee, into Battle. Like,
which definitely can tear someone apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's non-stop aggression usually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Micro Machine knows no peace. Like, it will be attacking for 100% of the game.
And just looking at the little notes that we have, shout out to Drekken for all these bots. A notable update for Phobos is actually a new TVT build.
Nice.
So kind of lucking out, or well prepared. What was it? Luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
So very nice setup to kind of grand opening, see what Phobos has in store for TVT
Yeah.
against Micro Machine.
Specifically calls out Micro Machine in this too, saying made a lot of last minute strategic tweaks throughout in an attempt to prepare for Micro Machine. So
Gorgeous.
yeah. Well,
So hopefully expecting that slow trickle of just constant units poking and prodding and seeing what damage they can do.
Micro Machine. Phobos.
All right, we're gonna have some Reapers kind of poking at each other, but Micro Machine's bunker is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I have not seen a bot do that yet. I'm sure that they have. I'm sure you've seen it a billion times at this point.
yeah, it's something they developed. At first it was a little buggy, but I think it works really clean now when the two gases are together. Yeah, it just speed mining for the gas.
It's so cool. It reminds me of PrintF has a micro, was it minute micro? So there's a few different things that you can work on, really specific micro techniques.
Yeah.
And one is dodging spine crawler hits by jumping into a bunker and then having them all jump out and then dodge and that already looks crazy. The amount of like rally points and micro that goes into making that bunker work is just so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it just saves that time. The acceleration, deceleration is not a problem because it's moving instantaneously through space and time. And yeah, Reaper coming in here. Phobos has its own cyclones, which helps clean that up.
It does look like, if you look at the gas count, it does look
Yeah.
like it almost does nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess does he have 3 on there? Or does he only have 2?
It's- I think that's what the chief benefit is it saves you a worker.
Okay.
So I
he
don't
is
know that it
less...
actually goes faster literally, but it's more efficient.
Got you. Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, less workers.
Yeah, because I know that like the amount of efficiency that you gain from going from 1 worker to 2 is obviously way greater than 2 to 3. You kind of have a lot of
because
dead
there's time. Yeah.
And so cutting down that dead time and just staying on 2 workers, very fun to see, very cool. And now we can talk about the rest of the game. I just really like that bunker sick.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, I mean, this is some of the stuff that kind of it took quite a few seasons to start to develop some of this. The speed mining on the mineral patches, I think Scarlet was the first to do.
I kind of remember,
Yeah.
with like Alpha Star and stuff, Scarlet talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so that became like a standard. A lot of the bots do this. Not a lot of the bots do the bunker thing. Of course, you have to be Terran to do it in the first place. But yeah, it's things like this that push the bots into the superhuman level that like they can now do builds that cannot be accomplished if you don't have it. And that was the premise behind Scarlet doing the 4-gate bot, was because of the speed mining, I can now hit a 4-gate at a time that should theoretically be unstoppable. And then
I love the text.
Yeah.
From Micro Machine.
Variants.
I just love when they let us know what they're thinking.
Yeah, I like
so we
that
don't
as
have to
well.
guess on what the triggers are for certain things.
Yeah, I like that. And you can see, that it makes assessments like what the supply count is. And it's not necessarily referring to the whole game, but I think like the engagement or thing it was thinking of, it will compare like, that was 9 versus 10 or whatever it said. So you can often see too if it has an idea of what's going on. Like, is it accurate or is it totally wrong?
Yeah, which I'm surprised at how much it pulls back for that assessment.
Yeah.
Just because Cloak Banshee seems like a decent investment to completely, cancel all forms of harass for.
Yeah.
It seems like you have a very specialized unit that is not going to be great later on. You know, it's kind of like Adepts for Protoss. It's like you don't really want an army of full of Banshees. If you get the
Yeah.
Banshees, you kind of want to trade them out pretty early on and get some worker damage in. So the fact that these Banshees do have cloak and have not seen the other side of the map really
Yeah, it's
worries me a little
unusual.
bit. Yeah.
It's usually I think it's because he got shut down reasonably well with the on the Reapers since Phobos made Cyclones, but usually that's coming while that stuff is already attacking.
It's
And it just
snowballing,
joins
yeah.
in. Yeah. But
And now-
Phobos doing a really good job of like he just has more.
Yeah,
stuff.
well, the
It's-
Banshees really come into play because of the lack of Vikings now. That starport production time is so important.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
these tanks get in a really nice position right outside of Micro Machines' third base.
Yeah, it looks like what's going on in the main there.
Oh yeah, and Micro
So-
Machines main, there's
Oh, this is the drop. So this, well, I didn't specifically
Cyclone
say
drop?
it. Yeah, this was in the patch notes, and then like, let's see it, let it happen. But yeah, Cyclone drops into
love
the
that.
main base there. Really,
10 workers killed, and
Yeah.
now obviously more going down at the third. These two tanks are within CC range, and that is an orbital command that is not a planetary fortress, so it's going to go down very quickly. And I mean, air control and ground control are pretty much all Phobos right now.
yeah,
And the Raven is going to make this cloak upgrade just seem really like a waste of money. Really, you know, these
Yeah,
Banshees
yeah.
are not it right now.
he almost picked off the Raven earlier, which would have made that a much more useful. But
Yeah.
yeah, but he scans well too. I think he saves up some scans specifically for cases like that. But yeah, it looks like he's just kind of steamrolling. If you're able to really shut down the Micro Machine aggression and get on top of them, that's kind of one of the only ways to do it. Is a lot of people try and like survive it, but you've got to like do it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like TVT is such like a tank Viking check.
Yeah.
We're like so often. Sometimes the bio ball also comes into play, but a lot of the times it really is just like, all right, do you have the air? All right, do you have the ground? All right, you're either like really winning or like really losing. And yeah, like I said, the Banshees, that time not going into Vikings, and then losing the first like couple
Yeah.
Viking wars. I mean, it's like Phoenix Wars where it's like the snowball just doesn't stop once you lose the first one because they're not going to stop building Vikings. And once you have the Viking numbers, you can never get on the tanks, and the tanks always have more vision because of the air, and it's just a very snowbally matchup in general, and especially those two unit counts are like so important.
Yeah, definitely. And he just kind of went straight ahead for all of it. Yeah, Micro Machine is often very based on like either doing enough damage to you or putting you on your back heel long enough that he spirals out with economy, but never really got up to the base count. Micro Machine's similar to the Ketra type where it's just going to take 8 or 9 bases if it can. And Phobos, you can obviously see does the same thing. So there you go. Pretty good showing by Phobos. This, like we were saying before, this is kind of the check of like, has Phobos crossed into the elite level? And of course, Eris always was. So, hey, whatever.
It's only a
Easy.
matter of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's, you could tell like it was there. Eris always like macro focused. Phobos, the same sort of thing. So we're getting that going. Everything's always a little bit on the edge of like, what's the first fight or two going to be? Does a Reaper get an early advantage? Build order wise, did you find anything that like worked well? So that can make a difference. But yeah, it looks like Phobos had all the answers there.
Yeah, I feel like that first the first
let it happen.
instance the first instance of Micro Machine seeing the Viking and that being the trigger to not go in.
Yeah.
The Banshees, if they can get some worker kills,
Yeah.
then they really start becoming valuable. But without it, it's so bad so
Yeah.
quickly. And so yeah, I'd love to see if Micro Machine doesn't get that trigger to not, to pull back everything and to just like leave Phobos alone, because that really allowed Phobos to come out on the map, take map control, and then the Viking tank game is just
Yeah,
which
for
looked
sure.
great from Phobos. The TVT adjustments.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. It's like,
I
you know,
always described, and I always described Massa, the Terran player, this way: of it's like a juggler playing against a player. The idea is if you could juggle 8 balls and they can only juggle 7, I could just throw 8 balls at you and you're going to drop one. But if I could juggle 8 and you could juggle 8, I throw all 8 at you and you're like, yeah, that's fine, dude.
I have
Like,
all of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's if you can handle it, you totally dominate them. But if you can't, then you're just overwhelmed. And I think that's what Micro Machine does. But yeah, let's. I think we're ready. Let's jump in.
Micro Machine. Phobos.
All right, Reapers coming out for both bots, just like game 1.
Seeing each other and then pretending they didn't see each other.
Yeah, I
That's
kind of like that.
Like two acquaintances on the street, and you just kind of look away and be like, I'm not gonna nod to them.
Neither of you want to like really like talk, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You're like, oh, that's scary from work. So, yeah, Reaper and Strange Grenade. He'll come back to try and help out now.
Yeah, there's gonna be 2 Reaper fights. I don't think many workers are gonna be disrupted because both of them, you know, have the Reapers there to defend. 1 worker goes down for Phobos.
Yeah, Reaper actually dying there. Whereas Phobos gets away. And we're already going to have, Cyclone out, whereas Micro Machine went for a tank first.
All right, I think a big thing for me is going to be that Stargate, what you start building, because I feel like if it's not a Raven or a Viking, you got to do something with it pretty quick. You know, I don't mind going into, you know, Liberators or something, but you got to get it parked on the other side. You can't really have it on your side.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, if you're building a utility unit, you have to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the thing.
All right, we got a medevac coming, so it looks like going to be setting up for that cyclone drop. That actually got like I think 10 workers or something.
It did a lot.
Game 1.
Yeah, and with the army like really tied up, definitely got some utility. I think a lot of it, like as a general StarCraft thing, I think a lot of people understand the concept of like you get your resources, you want to spend your resources because if you're not spending them, then you're not getting any benefit out of them. But the same thing applies to even things that you spent already, because if you built a unit and you don't use the unit, then you're also wasting it. If you built a forge and you don't do anything with it, you don't do any upgrades or whatever, you're also wasting it.
Yeah, it's that first zealot in Protoss, you know. If you're not doing something with that zealot, that's just 100 minerals that could have been anything else. This was an amazing cleanup. Yeah. By the way.
That was quite
the Viking being the first starport unit, definitely huge there, because that Viking immediately getting on the medevac makes it so hard to do any, you know, cheeky micro or even get the cyclones like further back in the base. That was like at the front, no workers in sight to even try to lock onto, and really well cleaned up by Micro Machine.
Yeah, for sure, and that could definitely turn the tides a bit on who has that early army initiative when the two of them do end up meeting. But yeah, the fact that Micro Machine is not being ultra aggressive is strange.
You say that.
Yeah, well, he's moving. Yeah. So let's see if this gets into a good position or anything.
But you know, I mean, he definitely started that first 5 minutes. Micro Machine was the defender.
Yeah,
which is not
it's very unusual for a lot of his games, but makes sense here.
And now Banshee Cloak is coming in.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's kind of that GT timing that we were talking about, where, you know, it's like really good at early on, and it kind of sucks in the middle, but late it kind of comes back
Yeah.
into being good.
Yeah, you start getting Banshees with hyperflight routers, and even if they've got all the detection in the world, it sometimes doesn't help. Because they could just dart in, and it always creates that dangerous situation, especially if you're someone that runs with like 1 or 2 ravens. Of like, suddenly I could snipe your ravens, and there's
Yeah.
Banshees in your face before you could do anything about it. And yeah, it's just always a dangerous thing.
Oh, I love that auto turret. Just getting
Yeah.
a little bit further as the Raven realized that it wasn't in danger, just pushing it up a little bit by little bit. I really like that. I really don't like the medevac because
Yeah.
the Viking count is just not in a place that
Yeah.
it needs to be. And now going back into Banshees, yeah, like the Vikings are just never going to catch up if Phobos keeps building Vikings.
Yeah, for sure. It's just not what you want. Cyclone being added in, probably good, although he's made one and gone back to tank. It's tough to balance those. You kind of, the Cyclone can help in pushing the air back, but if there's too much army, it's useless anyway, too.
Yeah, and Phobos is going a little more marine heavy than we kind of saw last game.
Nice initial tank engagement there. Cyclone's not
Ugh.
targeting the best things.
Yeah, now it's just going to be the air war. It's just going to be
Yeah.
Phobos has way too many Vikings, and Micro Machine, unless they're scanning constantly, is just not going to have vision, even if they had the tank numbers, which right now, I mean, clearly they don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to if you lose the air, there's no way to like claw yourself back on the ground.
Yeah, because you end up in this exact situation where their tanks see you, your tank can't see them, and they just have this range advantage. Okay, counter push here. There's 1 Marine under. He kind of caught the Viking split, which worked out well.
I was gonna say, yeah, the fact that the 5 Vikings kind of saw like 3 Vikings by themselves, got another Viking, and then there were another 3 Vikings. Phobos didn't have the Viking count,
Yeah,
but the Viking positioning,
yeah,
was a problem.
yeah. Is he gonna come now? Now will have an advantage. Almost getting the Raven.
Auto turret putting in
Yeah.
work right
Yeah.
now, really saving them. But Phobos is not a Ketra, does not have 35 Ravens to fall back to. I think that was their only Raven. So
Yeah,
now without like a Marine, force on the ground or anything like that, if the Viking count goes into Micro Machine's favor, there's nothing to really retreat to for Phobos. So this position gets a little bit scarier.
yeah, for sure. That initial like tank blast that took out like 8 or 9 Marines in a couple hits was huge.
Yeah.
'Cause it allowed that whole Viking pushback because there was only 1 Marine beneath. Now he's building that up a little bit more, and there's no tanks on the Micro Machine side to stop the walk-in.
Yeah, it's like that, there's a dance between the 3 different units of like the Marines are protecting the Vikings are protecting the tanks, and the tanks are protecting the Marines.
Phobos trying to drop in with a bio drop there as well. It just got by one of the Vikings, which obviously he could see it, but he didn't turn around to attack it.
Yeah, it does allow the Vikings of Micro Machine to jump on the Vikings of Phobos now that the Marine force is gone. But these Marines are going to be pretty annoying, and when you're only on 3 base, all of these workers not mining is actually pretty significant. If this was a 9-minute Ketra game when they had 12 bases, who cares about these workers? But yeah, also gonna get a tech lab off of the star port.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pickup. Those just take a long time to build.
And the fusion core and Yamato cannons being researched. So clearly a want to go into BCs, and now one of those tech labs being taken down is gonna really slow that down. Viking production or Viking count, a little bit in Phobos' favor.
Yeah, Phobos was doing a little dance in front of a tank there, and lost a number of Marines, but still just kind of collapsing in on everything. Not quite double Micro Machine's army supply, but getting there, and with everything pile up on the ramp here, it's gonna have. I think the tanks covered just the edge of that ramp bottom.
Yeah,
so
and again,
can't go anywhere.
This is like still, it's not the very beginning of the game where it's super low eco, but this is not super late game where you have plenty of bases and stuff, this
Yeah.
natural being lifted and unable to mine at all is like a third of Micro Machines' income right now. And this bio ball also kind of the big differentiating factor. The Viking count kind of similar, tank count pretty similar. It's really this ball of Marines that kind of acts as how Ketrok's Ravens were acting, as just like the thing to retreat to for this Viking count.
Yeah, for sure there. And now we are at about double the army supply. Upgrades are also in Phobos' favor as the bio is upgraded. And yeah, the tank's gone. There's just kind of nothing to hold the ramp. There's one higher up in the main, but kind of doesn't matter. It's too far back.
Yeah, and I don't think BC's ever even got started producing, which was interesting with the amount of investment into BC tech. There was the fusion core and even the Yamato cannon being researched. They have a tech lab. Obviously, that one tech lab was taken out, but they had an open starport with a tech lab, but still no attempt to build BCs or any, really game-changing units to kind of reverse the situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think Micro Machine is very used to being on 6-7 base by the time it makes that conversion into the higher tech, and it just wasn't there. So yeah, Phobos definitely passing the admission check.
Yeah, this looked awesome.
Yeah, looks quite strong and looks like it's getting a lot scarier as thing goes. And yeah, again, made specific adjustments knowing that Micro Machine was going to be the opponent to deal with stuff, and seems like it's worked out.
This competition just feels so much more human-like than a lot of the other TVTs we've been seeing, where it's entirely Viking Raven or just Viking tank. Having this spread of units is just like very, if there was a interference matrix on the tanks, it'd look a little bit more Maru-esque.
Yeah.
But this is like how like TVT is played, which is really cool to see the actual, correct unit dispersion, I should say.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, the ability to control in different groups is such a huge thing there. And you could see once everything was clumped for a while, although you had the drops, but once they got some room to spread out, you were getting like a few different separate like task forces on different areas. So recap here of tonight, we had tier T over Zozo. Zozo will play Kaninana in the losers consolation last chance match next week. Group B, we had Phobos, as we just saw. Phobos taking out Micro Machine. Glad that we got that done despite technical issues. And Micro Machine is going to get a chance against Nyanka to carry on next week. Group C, we got Ketra against Benbot in surprisingly not 2-hour-long games.
They weren't too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't
still
too
the
bad
longest of the night, but we've had
not
longer
terrible.
nights. Yeah.
So we're gonna get Benbot against Ender, a rematch of the first round next week. And our last group, we saw Zena versus Sharkbot. I think we got that backwards. Zena is advancing on, and it'll be Sharkbot in the lower against EPN Roach.
Very nice. Hopefully, Sharkbot trying some more cheese with renewed life.
It just kind of ran into like if you're playing a random bot, the random bot is probably also like cheesing or doing something early. Like it's just kind of not always what you want to be doing. So yeah, I think Sharkbot may still be fine in making it through, but we'll see next week.
Yeah, these are sweet games though.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to see the kind of unit compositions and just seeing the ability use and stuff of the units. Kind of just get more fleshed out and stuff. I feel like the disruptors and obviously we already had some Ravens from Ketra, but I feel like I saw a lot more Raven auto turret use.
Yeah,
even some interference matrix, which I feel like we haven't seen much. So very fun. Kind of exploration of different units and the bots. Army composition and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. As the capabilities become not a barrier, then I think that's you're getting more dynamic games that have different different fun things in them.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think a good night overall. I think everything was a 2-0, but still some of the matches were pretty close and
Close
good.
to 0. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
As you stated the TO as you go 0-2.
Yeah, exactly.
It was close. I
Yeah.
swear they were sweating.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
almost had it.
Yeah, it was like 4 stock, yes, but it was almost 3.
But yeah, but I was making them think real hard.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. Again, hit like, subscribe below. And if you want to get involved in the bot stuff, links in the description to templates to start up your own bots, get you started with that. Check
out Drekken's extra content.
Yeah, every Monday apparently.
Yeah, we got mob bot programming. We got the monthly bot show, Post Bots.
Yeah.
We got experts talking about. I think Ketra was on there. Or one of like the big creators likes to go on there. So get your knowledge. Start. If you think you can do better, let us see it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see what you can do.
Yeah.
And then one more shout out to AI Arena, where all the bots are located. And again, the website for that is aiarena.net. You can play against these bots. You can see how you would fare.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's fun
just
too.
get more into the world of ProBots.
Indeed. So yeah, thanks for coming out. ProBotsAI.com as well. Check that out and stay tuned for next week. Same bot time, same bot channel.
Yeah, same casters. It'll be fun. We'll see you there.